Well, good morning and welcome to Legacy Lines. My name is Jason. So today is Saturday, December 14th, 2024, and this is episode number 6. As I stated, good morning. I'll get into that in a moment, but welcome to Legacy Lines, where each episode is a journey into the wisdom that shapes our lives. As I said, my name's Jason, your guide through stories and strategies that forge exceptional paths. Exceptional paths. That wasn't very exceptional. So here we dive into the teachings that have not only shaped my life, but can redefine yours. From biblical landscapes that guide us to the financial acumen that builds empires, join me as today, right now, we will unpack the tool sets, mindsets, I'll say, today for extraordinary results. This isn't just knowledge, it's legacy in the making. I love saying that. This isn't just knowledge, it's legacy in the making. Knowledge abounds everywhere. Those that take it and do it are the few, the proud, the wise. No, I'm not. Oh, okay. So jumping down into today's topic, today's episode is titled Make a Commitment to Be a Lifetime Learner. Let's sit with that for a second. That was like 3 seconds. Make a commitment to be a lifetime learner. So I use the word unpack a lot. And this morning I was doing some unpacking. So I don't know, it's very seasonal. I went for a drive this morning. I drive around the city that I live in. I typically drive the same route, so the decision is already made. Um, I have had seasons in the particular vehicle that I've had for a number of years. It is a Nissan Maxima. That's going to be changing soon. And that will be an interesting day when that changes. And when I go for these early morning drives, a lot of times it's because two reasons. I've either been awakened to think deeply about something, or I'm in a season of extreme learning of said subject matter. And there's been grace on my life in a couple of occasions to do that. So my wife and I lovingly refer to it as Nissan Maxima University. And very specifically, I can see that those seasons of learning in that car in the early morning times, like for example, right now it's 6:51 a.m., I was getting the final touches for this lesson. I became inspired and I almost just drove back home because I'm trying to get home before my children wake up and I'm going to do it. I almost didn't take and ride the wave of inspiration right in the moment, but I decided to. And I think that that's an important principle. I wanted to put it right to work. When I came into the knowledge, I wanted to immediately put it to work. Again, I am the master of other episodes and rabbit trails, but I'm going to try to stay focused. So the principle that revolves around Nissan Maxima University for me in seasons of my life is an offshoot of just simply deciding to be a lifetime learner. Very, very important. I've made a commitment to be a lifetime learner. And I think that that's the first step, but I want to give you some evidence, not only in a results base, but a scientific nature that supports the ability of you to be a lifetime learner. And we can know the origins a little bit better of how we get there. And believe me, it starts at a very early age. The old joke is part of my story is when you meet somebody new, and I heard somebody do this on a couple speaking engagements, and it just caught me as a funny idea. You introduce yourself and then say, "Well, I'm Jason, and I was born at a very early age." Dad jokes for all of you out there. Again, sorry, children. If you don't know, the primary purpose for the Legacy Lines podcast is to create a archive for my children of life's lessons that will outlive me in a different format while I interview people that have impacted me deeply and have something compelling to say that's valuable that we can apply. There we go. That's the reason. So, and of course, I have all of my kids right now enjoy dad jokes. So who doesn't like them? Yeah, the most crusty people are the ones that don't like dad jokes. Anyways, that's a different episode. So let's unpack this principle. And again, I want this at who I am as Jason. I want this to be very evident. And I communicate to people all the time in job interviews and business interactions. I'm a lifetime learner. That's just what I put it in my bios. It's it's part of who I am. And so what that does is it sets the table with people that you're open, and that you're tenacious to grow, and that you have a growth mindset. So let's discuss the learning of how background knowledge is actually built up in our life. And we'll come back to that background knowledge. Okay. So, um, the science of learning in the brain surface area, I want to get down into this a little bit. And I've done some research on this, and I want to pose this as a food for thought as I just read this, the thoughts distilled down. Okay, so the human brain is absolutely incredible in its ability to learn and adapt. One of the key reasons for this is its design. And for those of you who know, I have a biblical worldview, and I believe that we are created beings, intelligent designs. That there has never been and never will be a beautiful creation as beautiful as humans. God, in His mercy, allowed us to be built a little lower than the angels, and that's powerful if we sit with that. And so one of the key reasons for this is its design. Those intricate folds on the surface, called convolutions, massively increase the brain surface area. This expanded area creates space for more neurons and connections, which means the brain has a huge capacity to process and integrate information. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. In the early years of life, the brain is in overdrive, rapidly developing and forming tons of neurons and connections. This is a season of high neuroplasticity. It's basically a fancy word for the brain being super adaptable to new experiences and learning. But here's the flip side to that. Because the brain is still organizing itself during this stage, early learning is tough. Okay. It's like trying to set up a new filing system. Think about this. Like, you go in a room, there's just piles of paper everywhere. Nothing's ever been done. New information's more papers are coming in the door every minute. It's like trying to set up a new filing system where all the papers are still scattered everywhere. And then as we grow older, something amazing starts to happen. The brain uses all that knowledge we've already accumulated as foundation, or background knowledge would be a better way to say that. I call it background knowledge, or your knowledge base, your surface area, etc. So new information starts to quote unquote click faster because it has more connections to latch onto. Interesting. And it makes total sense. Um, this is why learning becomes easier over time. It's not because we're smarter, but because our neural network is more developed and interconnected. Fascinating. So the hardest learning we ever do is in the beginning. It's when the brain is laying out the groundwork. If you've ever built a structure, you've ever seen construction, been around that, what do you never see? You never see what's called the footings, typically under grade, to support the structure being built upon. So we're talking about the footings, the concrete foundation of our brain. So the hardest learning we ever do is in the beginning. It's when the brain is laying the groundwork, building the highways, interconnections that all future learning will travel on. Once those roads are in place, with, adding more lanes becomes much easier. Man, we could just think about that in, our North American interstate system. Adding more lanes is somewhat, painful, but it's never as hard as creating the new road through mountainous caverns and, hills and valleys and floodplains and rediverting streams, but it's already established. So we can draw the parallel to the interstate system. When it was first built, was really difficult. Now it's inconvenient when a new lane is added, but it's not impossible, and it becomes easier over time. So this is why early learning is so important. It sets the stage for everything that comes after. But I got some good news for you. The brain is a muscle. And just like working out your body, everybody knows I'm really ripped. Just kidding. I do value it very much, and I've grown to value it more over time, and I'm very serious about it. So just your brain is a muscle, just like working out your body. You can train your brain to grow stronger and healthier. So whether we're learning at 5 or 55, your brain has the capacity to expand. And I would say, let's reject the premise, whether you're learning at 5, 55, 65, 75, 85, okay? Your brain has the capacity to expand, adapt, and thrive if you keep it exercising. It's a muscle, okay? So let's discuss why early learning is the hardest. And I'm trying to talk to you parents out there of young children when this is so fascinating. So subject matter that is presented to the student 1 year may not click at all. And there's a rejection and a resistance to even learn it. And I'm talking like, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 year olds. And a frustration ensues on the parents. What kind of a specialist do we need to get? Blah, blah, blah. Maybe it's speech, etc. And then the next year you take another pass at it. And it's a totally different ball game, and it just seems to click. Why? It's surface area background knowledge. There's been other paths made. There's been connecting to, again, in the early stages, the brain forms vast numbers of neurons and synapses, but must work hard to organize and optimize these networks. So it just hasn't developed yet. It's again, walking into the room where there's stacks of paper that's completely unfiled, floor to ceiling. Imagine, a 20 by 20 room, floor to ceiling, and more information constantly coming in. That's really why that early learning is the most difficult learning, not to mention communication barriers. You can never get inside of a child's head or your own head or remember back to those initial learning frustrations or whatnot. I'm just simply here to talk about this so we know what's going on and have some tools in our tool belt to help us. So as we age, learning becomes easier because we built a robust framework of knowledge, which provides that surface area for new information to attach and make connections. So we have an inlet. So stuff coming in the door to the filing room has like an inbox now, and there's a mechanism and a process to correlate and categorize information on where it needs to go. And it has a lot to do with also as we grow older and this thing gets in the way of our learning capacity. For those of you listening on audio, I was pointing to my brain. Then we have a choice to have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, and you get to choose. We'll talk more about that in a moment. So let's challenge the myth of declining learning ability with age, because it's not real. Your brain is a muscle. The more you work it, the stronger and more efficient it becomes. I can tell you and speak firsthand, I believe this to be true. Necessity is the mother of all invention. If you don't have time to do a project, but you need to do a project and you lean into learning, guess what's going to happen? You're going to correlate other successes you've had and learning moments to then apply to new said framework you don't know how to solve yet. It's powerful. It's very, very powerful. And to me, I'm backing all this up with the core principle of being a lifetime learner. So let's talk about that. The learning is the science of making connections. Every new piece of knowledge links to something we already know, making learning cumulative and exponential. I like that in investments. I also like that in wisdom, and wisdom is the best thing you can invest in. So let's reject normal thinking. So along with our core principles of being a lifetime learner, learning is the science of making connections. We reject normal thinking, quote unquote normal. I forget which episode it was now. I think it's episode 4. Why would I ever want to be normal? Normal is all the negative things. Address common misconceptions like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So why do people succumb to that thinking as opposed to, man, the seasoned employees in the workforce are some of the sharpest and most eager to learn. Let's flip that whole thing on its head. And I believe we should. And then adapting a growth mindset. I just was speaking about that. Learning doesn't stop after school. Oh, Lordy, I'm glad it doesn't. I'd be dead if not dead, but I would not be where I'm at today. We'll just save that for another day. And my view of school is really simply, can you follow instructions? And we reward you in the form of a grade or pass fail or whatever mechanism said education model communicates, versus can you learn to chart paths that do not exist, and can you be a free thinker, and can you Can you develop things on your own that just don't exist? Can you chart new paths? One of the principles in the opening statement is charting new paths to life's successes. So as we also want to be curious and be humble, and these are essential traits of being lifetime learners. Why? Because curiosity allows us to posture ourselves in a way that we're always looking for new ideas. We don't think we have the market cornered. And then humility is big in saying, I don't know here. Can you teach me? And you ask for information. Very humble. It's very humble. It's a humbling thing to be given a task. Geez, it's a little early, but I'm here. And say, I don't know. Can you help me? But that's very, very powerful. And powerful leaders in life as they lead their families are humble and they're willing to say those phrases. All right, so let's look at practical applications. So influences and practical applications. I can't say enough that if you don't know about radical personal finance and the host Joshua Sheets, it's a treasure trove of wisdom. I just get my thinking expanded so many times. So I want to give props and where credit is due. And Joshua often talks about the importance of transferable skills that equip you to adapt across various life situations. That's what we're talking about here. Okay. And then Stanley Schmidt, I have mentioned, I believe, the math curriculum. It's not just math, but the Life of Fred or Life of Fred. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's fascinating to listen to him talk and unpack the philosophy of building and learning connections over time and how cumulative knowledge accelerates future learning. And then I'll just share a personal story applying these principles in time management and the ability to organize your day. So I started making a daily task list in about 12 years ago, actually. No, I'm sorry, about 14 years ago. And I was desiring to become more efficient, more organized, do less thinking about what I had to do. And so really I committed fully to doing that and really built up what I'll call a library of background knowledge of just daily task lists. But what that got me in the habit of doing is using that same, we'll call it file structure or system to not only catalog my day and what I'm working on, but meetings with business meetings, all meetings, whether it's potential business interactions, one-on-ones with staff, even volunteer work that I do, projects in that. And so I have and I'm talking a giant historical archive of things that I've spent my most precious research, my most precious resource, my time doing that I can go back and it's background knowledge. It's background knowledge. I can reference and I can immediately go there in my brain when I see it on the screen. I was going to say paper, but it's on the screen and it's searchable. It's categorized. It's background knowledge. The same thing happens in your brain. I just have a physical expression or manifestation of what I'm talking about that I leverage literally several, maybe 10, 15 times a day during the week. So that's important. Practical application. So let's talk about action steps now. We're going to commit and decide to being a lifetime learner. So be intentional. Find one topic or skill you're curious about and commit to exploring it. Remember, I mentioned Nissan Maxima University. I'll mention a couple things about Nissan Maxima University. I have had one specific season about 3.5 years ago where I believe that it was divine. So the Lord was leading me to study like monetary policy, which is kind of wild, and the history of essentially currencies. And there was a grace on my life to be able to consume that information from a historical perspective, from why monetary structures and kingdoms failed and how transfer of power works, et cetera, et cetera. And there was a real grace and an opportunity of a lifetime, I would say, to learn that. And I was very intentional about it. Now, when I look back at that, I have the background knowledge, I learned it, I applied it, and I can go back to that resource. Am I super jacked up about learning more about it? Not right now. I think I'm good, but I was very intentional in that moment. So I found a topic or a skill that I was curious about, and I explored it. The second example would be um, during the years of 2021, I needed to get really keen on my own health. Okay. So I went on a pretty big discovery on what that looks like of being an advocate for myself, of not accepting just what I'm told in a healthy way, and taking ownership of my own health. Well, since then, I have not been a small guy over the course of my life. At the end of the day, I was pretty unhealthy. And that discovery had propelled me into a way that I still practice today, about how to live a healthier lifestyle, being a middle aged man and growing into my older years and having a vision for that and giving that away to my children as well. There's more things to that I'm not going to get into right now. That is not the format or forum, but that was a major takeaway from that time period for me that I still practice and exercise today. No pun intended. Okay, so we practice active reflection. Okay, take moments like a morning drive again to deeply think about what you're learning and where you want to grow. Let's focus on where we want to grow. So also when God puts a grace on your life to learn something, in his kindness, he's speaking to you like this is a gap in your portfolio, or I'm trying to speak to you about being obedient in something I'm calling you to. Lean into that, because at the end of the day, obedience is better than sacrifice. And then try to recognize that and be obedient. In other words, let's partner with the Holy Spirit for what Christ followers would call a prompting of God partnering with you, and then we saying a powerful yes to that. And then lastly, under actionable steps to commit to being a lifetime learner, teach what you learn. I've spoke time and time again about this. Share your insights with someone else, family, colleagues, or mentees, not belligerently. We don't want to push it on people, but when the subject presents themselves, be very humble with any knowledge that you have mined out and give it away and reinforce and apply your knowledge. So, um, at the end of the day, I've shared a few times, and I'm a broken record because I believe principles require you to be on the playlist of repeat. I want to give away in a moment's notice what something has even cost me years to learn. Why? I'm not going to get into that today. But that is my heart position. That is my heart position. Teach what you learn. So be intentional, practice active reflection, teach what you learn. And then the closing challenge, I would say to you, listeners, children, people I know, people that I don't know, people that I'll never meet, maybe sometime I'll meet you in the future. Reflect on the cumulative power of knowledge and how it shapes our capacity for growth over time. Again, your mind is a muscle, your brain, sorry, your brain is muscle. And over time, we build up that surface area. So, what's one area of your life where you've stopped learning and you've dug your heels in? I'll say it that way. So, how can you reignite curiosity and make learning a daily habit? What needs to move for that to happen? Is that time? Is that a mindset? Is that perhaps a job you're working? There are jobs out there that are mindless, endless tasks. They're built for some people, and some people they're not. And then this week, start one small learning habit. It could be as simple as reading a book, watching a tutorial, or asking a mentor a thought provoking question. But begin to build your legacy of learning and decide you are making a commitment today to be a lifetime learner. Be well, friends, and Merry Christmas.